around the country. We go border to border, coast to coast. With this exhibit, we go anywhere we're invited to go. So although today we're at a church and a school, next week we may be at a hospital or we've set up in all kinds of weird places. We often get invited into public schools because of the Gutenberg Press and the Gutenberg page. We get to set up the whole exhibit. We have archaeology, we have manuscripts in original languages, first translations, Gutenberg and the printing press, and the Reformation age. And the newest thing is the 1611 King James over there in the corner, okay? Later half of the 19th century, late 1800s, archaeologists were looking for Babylon. And so they went out to Babylon. These were German archaeologists. Tablet was one of the very first things they found, or this series of tablets. And on this tablet is a cuneiform inscription. And cuneiform was a common language amongst many of the nations of the Middle East. It was a common written language among them for thousands of years. Particular is from about 560 BC, and it starts with a declaration that says, I, Nebuchadnezzar, son of Nabopolassar, king of Babylon, am rebuilding and dedicating these temples to Shamash and the rebuildings of the cities, so forth, to their former grandeur. And Nebuchadnezzar, that he was king of Babylon, says he was the son of Nabopolassar. It says he was rebuilding the temples and rebuilding the cities to their former grandeur. It's all right here in this. This affirms exactly what the scriptures say about Nebuchadnezzar, right? They found a signet ring in Jerusalem, and they couldn't identify it, so it was put in a drawer at Hebrew University, and there it stayed. And eventually a graduate student came upon it and did the legwork and was able to identify it as Pontius Pilate's signet ring. Years ago, in a tomb, in a cave, they found a pile of nails, and in amongst those piles of nails was a nail still embedded in the heel bone of a person. Pile of nails, in that case they were iron nails, and in that pile of nails there was another one embedded in a heel bone. Well, actually, it's that fragment there. That's about 200 years old. But this scroll, somewhere around 400 years old. This one's about 6. The small fragment that's real dark on the end that you might not be able to see from over there is a scroll from the 12th century. And it's on antelope skin. So, skin, this is on sheepskin. That one's on antelope skin. Hierogeniza. Are you able to see this over there okay? Okay. And in this, there's this guy, and he's got a head in his hand. He's just got to be overwhelmed. They found over 300,000 scrolls and fragments in this room. Of the fragments that they found that was buried in the bat poop. And so it's just blackened from being under that waste for so long. Scroll, or this is the same piece, that they lit it up with infrared. And now you're able to read it, right? So, on this scroll, on any Torah scroll, you read right to left, right? You read right to left. There's only 2 blank columns on a Torah scroll, all the way at the beginning and all the way at the end. So this scroll has a blank spot right here. This little piece of the column right here that's blank, that tells us this is the beginning of the scroll. This is Genesis. Genesis 1:1. About 200 years before the time of Christ. When Jesus, as growing up and so forth, was always in the synagogue on Sabbath, of course. And as an adult, he's reading. When you read through the scrolls, you always read through the scroll every year, right? Start to finish. And so, on Jewish New Year, you start at the beginning of Genesis 1. Every week you have a reading that takes you all the way through. And then when you're at the end of the scripture, that's the last week. There's a big celebration and everybody dances with it, throws it in the air, spins it all backwards, and then you're ready to start again the next day. But right here, you can see the text sticks out just a little bit from the others. Go over here. Oops. See that there? It sticks out a little bit. So the scribe made this scroll, delivered it. At some point, the reader is reading through and realizes, wait, there's a word missing, right? So he's got to bring a scribe back, and the scribe will erase it with his knife here, and he erases it, and he writes it back in, and when he writes it in, he squeezes it all in there. I have another scroll that the scribe just straight missed a whole line of text. The Black Plague is sweeping back through England again and is killing another 30 to 40% of the population. And the priests are dying faster than most because they're going in and reading the last rites to the dying, coming in contact with those patients, and then they're getting sick and they're dying. So there was a huge shortage of priests, right? And they were hiring anybody that was willing to be a priest to be one with no training. Just go do it. That's not very productive. This is from 1250. When you get a chance to look at this, it's just absolutely incredible. Right? This is a manuscript page. It is near perfection. The scribe was amazing. Scribes were the highest paid profession of their day. This page is an original. When Wycliffe translated the Bible into English, he was told not to, told to stop. And he says, no, I'm going to continue doing this. And he continued. And they were going to put him on trial for heresy. But I believe God called him home. He had a stroke and he died. They convicted him. It took a few years, and they convicted him of heresy. And so they went back and they dug up his grave. And in this picture here, we get a chance to look at it, you'll see that they burned his bones in the fire, and then they smashed him with hammers, and then they threw him in the river. But the worst part was they went back and gathered up all of his work, and they burned all of his work. So he was a prolific writer, and anything that he touched, they burned. And so there's very, very little of his work that exists today. This one here is one of only 17 known in private ownership. It's a very rare page. When you get a chance to look at it, my favorite thing is the W. It's two U's overlaid. It's awesome. Right here, it's about that area. It doesn't have to be perfect. Push right. Takes a lot. Perfect. Okay. Then we're going to take this all the way till it touches here. And I'll back you up and make you look strong, okay? Push hard. Push hard. There you go. Okay, come back the other way. Let's get some muscle on her. That puts about 2,000 pounds of pressure down on the paper.